And so we had Shabbat followed by Shavuot on Sunday, so we missed the last fellowship. So many of you have reached out and told me about your Shavuot experience in personal communications, which I love. And if you haven't shared yet, I would love to hear. But I want to take this opportunity to share with you about mine, because it was definitely the most unique Shavuot I've ever had. And while I was bracing as I went into it for it to possibly be the least spiritual, looking back, I see that without a question, it was the most spiritual. So usually on Shavuot, right, every single year I can remember since I was a boy, I was up all night learning Torah. And this year, Shana and I, we really did have great plans. We were going to the nearby settlement of Efrat, and we were going to stay with close friends, in their little guest house. And we had these different Torah classes lined up and meals lined up with good friends that we don't often get to see. And we were unusually excited about it. And then, as you know, my father was hospitalized, and it was taking different scary turns. And going into Shavuot and Shabbat, I realized I was going to be by my father's side in the hospital in Jerusalem. My mother could have possibly done it, my sister, but I realized I was really the best fit for this. And he was in such a delicate situation that we couldn't leave him for a moment. So I didn't attend services, and I didn't go to Torah classes at all. There were even times where, like, I didn't know, should I violate Shabbat or the holiday for this? He wanted, like, his bed adjusted a little bit. That's not really to save his life. Should I violate Shabbat for that? And I just decided, you know what? For my father's comfort, I'm willing to throw away my entire world to come. And it felt right and it felt true. And anything he wanted me to do, anything, I was there to do that for him. And I slept when he slept, and I was able to get away and lie down at nighttime, but I was in the hospital the whole time with him, and I needed to be energized and alert throughout the day to help him. So I needed to sleep for every moment of the night that I could. So there was no all-night learn-a-thon for me. And in the hours leading up to Shavuot, I realized that most of the time Shavuot is about learning Torah all night, but this Shavuot would not be about learning Torah, right? It would be about living Torah, about living the 10 commandments, about living the commandments of honor thy father and mother. And I wouldn't trade the time I had with my father over Shavuot for all the money in the world, the moments that I had, because in the moments of Torah learning and just conversing and being together that we had without devices, without distractions, when he was like aware and conscious and alert, the moments we did have together, I really felt the Shekhinah between us. There was so much healing. There was so much light. There was so much. There was laughter. There were tears between me and my father. It was really powerful on a personal level. I felt like I was finally able to be the son for him that he deserves. I never felt like I was able to really come anywhere near to the level of honor I owe him, compared to the incredible father he's always been. And continues to be, and may continue to be for many more years to come. Just the father that he is for me. And I'm so grateful that when that opportunity presented itself, that I grasped it firmly, right? With both hands. And I didn't let it go. And I'm grateful that Hashem blessed me with the awareness and the acceptance to embrace this new, different experience, this unexpected situation, and to grasp it rather than to resist it, or God forbid, to miss it altogether, due to a lack of spiritual flexibility or a predetermined and preconceived expectations of the way things should be, right? Those expectations that we often make into idols and cause us to miss out on the beautiful opportunities of life. I could have been like, my mother will be with him, my sister will be with him, they'll figure it out, and then I'll really step up next week. I'll step up next week once I've strengthened myself by studying Torah all night, or something like that. I could see having those thoughts. And I think in truth, that's one of the great themes of this week's Torah portion. We see in the Parsha the complexity of the camp, right, of the tribes of Israel when they would move from one stop to another stop throughout the desert. The cloud would move, right, indicating that it's time to get up and move. And we're talking about 3 million people, right? The Kohanim would blast their chatzot, these loud blasts, short blasts, different combinations of blasts that indicated to do different things. It's complicated just getting your family out of the house. When I think about Jeremy's upcoming speaking tour, I'm like, how do they do it? They have 6 kids and they're going throughout America. It's a lot, right? Just imagine the complications involved in his family, let alone 3 million people, and the detailed instructions of how to deconstruct and transport and reconstruct. It's a lot. You know that. You've read the Torah portion. You know what went into it. So my friend Micha Hyman brought this verse to my attention. So really the credit goes to him. But he pointed out that the key verse that we need to focus on in this portion, and really in our lives, this verse is one of the keys to happiness, one of the greatest keys to really being happy in our lives and serving God with all of our hearts. It's in this Torah portion in chapter 9, verse 18. It says, Al pi Hashem yisu b'nei Israel, v'al pi Hashem yachnu. At the commandment of the Lord, the people of Israel journeyed, and at the commandment of the Lord, they camped. As long as the cloud abode upon the tabernacle, they rested in their tents, right? By the word of Hashem's mouth, it was time to camp. And by Hashem's word, it was time to move. And, you know, as we know from chronicling their journeys, there were 42 different encampments, 42 stops. And the founder of Chassidut, right, the Baal Shem Tov, he says that we each have 42 different encampments in the journeys of our lives. 42 different times that we need to pick up, that we need to uproot everything, not only our possessions, often not our possessions at all, but our expectations, our firmly held beliefs of the way things are supposed to be, right? 42 different stops that we each have in our lives, different relationships maybe, or jobs, or missions, or purposes, I don't know. 42 different sets of expectations. That's the best way I can sort of bring it together. And as the text tells us, there were times that they were in a camp for 1 day. 1 day, right? Sometimes a week, a month, a year. One of the stops in the desert was 19 years, right? If you were born on the first day of that encampment, that one stop was your entire life until you're nearly of army age. You could even be skeptical that you were traveling at all. Maybe you just arrived your whole life, you're in that one stop. Or 1 day, right? We said that 1 day, imagine that, unpacking everything and setting up the camp in the most exhaustive and exhausting and precise way. And then the next day, the trumpets blast and it's time to undo it all and move on without having any idea why, right? The degree of self-nullification to embrace this journey, I mean, it must have been immense. Although the more I think about it, I'm not sure it's any more immense than the self-nullification that each of us need to go through in the journey of our own lives with the level of surrender to Hashem that we need to have. I don't know. As I was thinking about this and going through this parsha and this idea, I was thinking about so many of you and the pain and the expectations and the grief and the challenges and how you've just infused it with faith on this journey, just intuitively filling it with faith. But it's hard. It's hard. It's that 1 day, that one stop. But they really, in the desert, they had to feel in the most real way that they were the sheep and Hashem was the shepherd. And this Rav Micha, he was sharing, is one of the deepest reasons for human pain, right? Hashem knows where we're supposed to be and when we're supposed to be there and when it's time to move on. And often we don't want to. We're scared, right? We're scared or we're not ready. And we should really, this is something we shouldn't be ashamed of it. It's part of the human condition. It's part of the way we're wired. But this is so much of where our pain comes from. But the journey through the desert really is no less of a lesson to us than it was to them. Because sometimes we become married to a particular idea, to a particular situation, to a specific perspective or philosophy, and we don't want to move on because we're married to this thing, right? We have it figured out. We finally have it figured out. We finally made sense of this thing, and now everything is going to change, right? Quite often, that which we hold dearest and most attached to is exactly what we're called upon to leave behind. The degree of self-nullification, right, of emunah, right, of faith and of bitachon, of trust, is so immense, and that's what's demanded of us. That's the greatness of the opportunity. These stops on our journey, however scary or jarring or challenging they may be for us, that is the opportunity for us not to be married to these or those ideas or perspectives or expectations, but to be married only to Hashem. That's why a lot of the songs over Shavuot that we sing are saying to the Sheva Brachot, the songs of the wedding, because it's really a wedding where we are married to Hashem on Shavuot. For us to do what Hashem wants us to do and to go where Hashem wants us to go, even if we have to unpack and repack it, and one day we'll do it. That's the muscle that the journey of our lives and our journey through the desert builds within us, the muscle of trust and the muscle of faith. And we even see this muscle being built up really through this portion, through failure after failure on the journey itself. Right, we see in this Torah portion. I was gonna share a lot of them, but I don't have the time, and I don't want to eat up Jeremy's fellowship. But we see this with the mitonanim, right, the complainers, who had the chutzpah, the audacity to complain against Moshe and really against Hashem, that they wanted meat, and they missed Egypt. They no longer wanted the holy manna, the holy food Hashem provided them with. They were so attached to the idea of the meat of Egypt. They were so married to this concept of the melons and the leeks of their servitude that they didn't have the eyes or the trust or the faith to embrace the reality that Hashem was blessing them with and the idols of their own expectations. And again, my friends, this is not to judge them, right? We have all been there. I know that I have. I still go there sometimes. But that's what the journey is all about. It's about growth. Growth quite often from failure, from falling on our faces again and again and again, but never to stop getting up and seeking Hashem again with all of our hearts and all of our souls, reaching higher, standing atop of our countless pile of failures. So, all right, Jeremy, don't worry, I'm gonna wind it together here, because there's a lot more examples of this in the Torah portion, from Miriam speaking about Moses to, but anyways, just throughout the desert of their journey and throughout the desert of our lives, throughout the entire Torah portion, throughout the whole Torah, all of Jewish history, our history, this is what it's all about. By the word of Hashem, we travel, and by the word of Hashem, we encamp. And I'm just so grateful that Hashem gave me the eyes going into Shavuot. He gave me the eyes and the consciousness and the awareness to embrace the opportunity, to discard my predetermined expectations, because I did have moments of doubt, not real doubt, but really little bits of doubt. And between Shana, who strongly confirmed what I knew in my heart, even though that meant that these great plans that she was excited about would be canceled, and she would now be with a toddler and an infant without my help. And Jeremy, right, confirming that the decision to be in the hospital was, what'd you say, Jeremy, is definitely not the decision you'll regret. If you make any decision, you won't regret that one. That's what Jeremy told me. Sometimes he says a thing and it just pierces my heart. But ultimately, I felt that in my heart too. And I want to bless us all that we should internalize this truth, that ultimately we are married to Hashem and Hashem alone. That all of our preconceived notions and expectations are okay, right? We're human. But the moment they conflict with what Hashem actually gives us in our lives, we're able to discard them and move on to the next stop that Hashem has in store for us. And it's not always easy. It's never easy. But when we try to follow Hashem with all of our hearts, He often gives us the eyes to see how perfect this new stop is for us in our journey, and how without it, we would never be able to achieve the greater level of closeness to Hashem that really our journey in this world is all about. So anyways, thank you so much, my friends, for your blessings and prayers and support and being there for me and my family every step of the way. My father is actually miraculously getting really better. He's really, really getting better. And it's miracles. Like, he wasn't able to walk for 4 months. Now he can stand up and take steps. I told him in the prayers in the morning, who straightens the bent. Thank you, Hashem, who straightens the bent. That's you. He did that to you. My father said, believe me, that blessing has been in my mind and my heart. And so may we continue, my friends, to hold each other up as we journey through the different stops in the desert journey of our lives. I love you all so much, and thank you so much, and thank you, Jeremy.
This highlight was taken from the Land of Israel Fellowship. Every week, hundreds of families from literally around the world come together on our live Zoom sessions to strengthen each other, to inspire each other, and to learn Torah from the Land of Israel, in which we connect the dots between the Bible, the Hebrew language, and the confusing events of our times. Go to www.thelandofisrael.com/fellowship or click on the link below to join. Thank you.